Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get to our guests here, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Samantha Miller here on the podcast. She's a patient coordinator. She's also a first form legionnaire, an NPC bikini competitor, and she's also from Mizzou. But most importantly, she's our current guest on the podcast. Samantha, great to have you on.
Thank you.
So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle? What was your motivation towards doing that?
Sure. So growing up, I was a team player and I did a ton of sports. And when I went away to college, I kind of realized like, okay, I want to focus on school, but I still want to keep bettering myself. So growing up, I loved that team atmosphere. I loved the competitive atmosphere. So since I wasn't going to be competing in gymnastics competitively anymore, since I wasn't a part of my travel softball team anymore, I wanted to find a way to keep going at it. So I stepped into the Mizzou Rec Center, which is like one of the number one rec centers in the country. So right there, that's motivation. I'm like, okay, every day I'm here. But yeah, so growing up, being a part of team, having that support, always bettering myself, it's just something that I wanted to keep consistent in my life. So when I first entered the gym, bodybuilding competitions were not on my lists of to do. It was something that I developed an interest in for over time, which is why I actually didn't compete until after I graduated. So I knew that I needed to set some goals for myself. So upon entering Mizzou, I'm like, okay, I still want to keep my gymnastics figure. You know, you work so hard for that. You're in the gym day in and day out, getting the booty, getting the hamstrings, just overall being strong and muscular. And that kind of competition where you're up on a balance beam alone, but your team is still cheering for you on the sidelines, that's what I really loved. So even though I played softball, you know, that's a more group sport. It takes a whole team to win. But in order to place in gymnastics, it's like you have to show off the skills that you have worked for, that you have trained for months. So that bodybuilding, bikini competing type of thing, I came with the team to my first competition. Don't get me wrong. My boyfriend and I were a part of a team called Becker Built Bodies. And even though I had that team, what I brought to the stage was entirely self-earned. It was entirely self-deserved. It was a reflection of the work that I put in and day out in the gym and in the kitchen. I kind of just wanted to keep that up. So that's where the motivation came for. I know a lot of other people have like these life-changing stories, but and that's wonderful and I give them props. But for me, it was just a continuation. It was something I wanted to keep doing for myself. Overall, just being athletic and being fit and obtaining good nutrition makes me feel good. So I let that ride.
And a lot of people, have similar stories. And with gymnastics, I think that's just a whole different thing. I mean, that makes your body already so ready for sort of the competing, where it makes it maybe a little bit easier on you when you got started. But I always sort of like to make the comparison where if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways that they got to look the way that they look, whether it comes to what they eat, how many exercises they do, what reps they do, what time of the day they train. And there's just so many little micro things that make people look the way that they look. Was that hard for you when you were starting out with the weight training? Because like gymnastics, that's 99% body weight exercises where you're not, lifting a lot of weights. Was that hard for you when you got into more of the weightlifting to sort of figure out what worked specifically best for you and what made the best changes for your body?
I do think there was a time period where I struggled with why am I not lifting more? Like I thought I was strong, but you nailed it on the like you nailed it when saying gymnastics is entirely body weight exercises. So I went from that type of workout atmosphere to lifting heavy. And I mean, I definitely lift light too and do a lot of repetitions, but I'm just saying first coming into the gym, it's like, oh, no problem. Like, I can do a row, like a seated cable row at 120 pounds. Like, that'll be no problem. Okay, no, definitely more like 60, So it was making that adjustment and first figuring out what's going to work best for me. It was definitely a struggle. And you even mentioned, you walk into the gym and you see like 100 different people and you see that they have this curve and they have this striation and they have this length on this muscle. And you're like, wow, I want to look like that. So I will say, even till this day, I do minor comparisons, which is what can often be perceived toxic in this industry. But I don't let it like intoxicate my life. I see it as a goal. It's like if I really like that piece of that guy's body or that girl's body, then maybe I should ask them, hey, what are you doing for your leg workouts that you get your hamstrings to maybe pop like that? You know, and I think a lot of my mental maturity has progressed over time because of that realization. And knowing that everybody's body is going to be different. And even though I might be sitting there wondering, how does she look like that? When I walk into the gym, she could be looking at me and be like, why does she look like that? So you have to understand that everyone has different genetics, has a different makeup, and their roots are different. I started with gymnastics. That girl could have been a cheerleader. That girl could have been a dancer. She's going to have bigger calves than I do because she was always on her toes, you know? So there's just so much that goes into it. And it was a challenge in the beginning trying to figure out what works best for my body. And I began this in college. Every girl looked beautiful, and so that becoming, aware of maybe my weaknesses with that at such an early time in my bodybuilding career, I think was really good for me, because now I walk into the gym and it doesn't really phase me anymore. If anything, I'm thinking, like, I'll look to Adam, my boyfriend, and I'll be like, damn, her butt looks good. Like, it's just more of like, it's
Yeah.
flattering when I see them. I'm like, I know she's putting in work. It's not like, oh my God, why can't I look like that? Or, oh my God, I look like that too. Like, it's just like the pettiness about it. It's way beyond me.
I also do the same thing where I compare, but I always got to say, if you're going to go up to someone in the gym, never ask someone how they got calves like that, because you are going to be so mad when they say, oh, it's just genetic, I don't train them at all. I have small calves, admittedly, and that's my biggest thing, where I could do 100,000 calf raises every single day. They wouldn't gain an inch. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. But yeah, obviously communicating with people is just such a huge thing too. And one of the big misconceptions that I love to bust is, with a lot of women too, there's always that fear that there's going to be these big 400-pound guys in there that are just going to be super intimidating, and they're going to make you like not want to work out. But if you go in there, first of all, 99% of the people in there don't even know that you exist, because they're too busy focusing on their own workouts, which is, as to be expected. But secondly, I've had some of the biggest people on the planet on this podcast, and they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. They're usually so warm, and you can go up and talk to them and everything. I always got to say, though, do not go up to them when they're doing like mid bench press. When they're in their set, do not go up and talk to them. I saw one guy try to do that in college, and I stopped him, and I was like, no, don't do that. You're not going to like it. Just wait until they're over. Wait till they look approachable. But yeah, just go up and talk to them. That's another really huge and important thing. And the nutrition aspect, was that hard for you, sort of discovering that if you are going to put on weight and put on muscle, you are actually going to probably have to eat more than you even ate before you started working out? Was that a hard adjustment for you?
It was, because, for any girl, they're like, I want to be skinny, so they decrease what they eat, the whole concept of eating more but more nutrition based food is actually going to make you skinnier. Like, a lot of people still struggle with. And I did at first, in the sense that, like, I understood the concept. But like, when I went from just eating, like, I was used to having like maybe 2 eggs and like half a cup of oatmeal in the morning, and then a protein shake after my workout, and then I winged dinner, having these regimented meals every single day. Like, oh, I need breakfast at 8, I need my snack at 10, I need lunch at noon, I need another snack at 2. It was like, I'm gonna throw up. I might throw up. I just, like, it was a lot. And then, it's not for everybody, and I would say it's not for everybody, the bodybuilding, bikini building diet, where it's like the same meals for like a month and a half, then it switches 6 times, and it's the same meals for 6 times a day. But dieting in general, though, like, which is what I help my clients with, I try to help them understand, like, I could just give you macros, and as long as you meet those, you are going to see results. So I think the hardest thing for me is I like variation. So eating the same thing so many times a day, I was just like, so that was the hardest thing. But after like week 2, my body started being hungry. Like, if I was not home at 2 p.m, I was in, like, running errands. I'm like, I'm starving. I need my carrots and hummus or whatever it may have been. Like, like, I need that right now. My body, because your body adapts and it's expecting that food to use that energy. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just such a huge change. But also, when it came to starting out, did you find that your body adjusted really, really quickly? Like, did you start noticing gains really, really easy? Or do you feel sometimes this can be a detriment when you have that gymnastic background, you sort of had that solid foundation? It can be harder to sort of build up on that, as opposed to, let's say, if you weighed like 200 pounds and you went in there, you're going to see results a little bit faster. Did you see results quickly, even though you sort of had that gymnastics foundation, or was it more of a time process?
It was a timed process, and I quite frankly freaked out. My boyfriend and I did a competition at the same time, and being a dude, has more weight on him anyway. But every time I talked to him, we were doing distance at this time. He's like, "Babe, I dropped 3 pounds." I'm like, "What the hell?" Like I'm up a pound. Like it was a very tough process, and I have taken a year off season for this purpose, is because I wanted to figure out how my body works, and I have. And so I am super excited to get going again. And I found a coach that I think really understands my body. So I'm excited to pursue that. But for me, yes, I had a lot of muscle already, and the spots that I needed to lose weight in, which is you can't spot reduce, but where I needed to lose in, I wasn't losing in. Like my stomach gets lean like that, my arms start getting lean like that, but my thighs and my glutes, like getting lean there, especially on women, they carry all their estrogen there. That's where I struggled. And when I saw the scale wasn't moving, I'm like, why? Why?
Mm-hmm.
What am I not doing right? I'm sweating in the gym. I'm going twice a day sometimes. I'm eating my food, but it comes down to every piece of thing you put in your mouth and every ounce of energy you use in the gym. So, but yeah, I will say I struggled with that.
I always say that guys have it really easy when it comes to losing weight. I mean, I can drop weight really, really quickly. The only bad thing about being a guy, I think, when it comes to losing weight or where the fat goes is that the fat always goes to the belly. You can have really ripped arms. You could look like a bodybuilder with arms, but then as soon as you take the shirt off, they're like, "Oh, yo, okay." So yeah, I'm in my like mini bulk because I'm getting my winter weight ready. I usually gain about 10 to 15 pounds for the winter because I'm up in Minnesota, and when it gets to -20, I mean, if you're really, really skinny, that's really, really gonna suck. So you got to put on a little bit more weight. But yeah, absolutely. And then once you did sort of get those beginner gains, one of the things that people really get discouraged by is that after a while, you're not going to be able to maintain that progress, which is why they call it beginner gains, because your body's not used to it, so it really adapts quicker, but then over time it becomes harder. I mean, you can still make progress, but it won't be as quick. Was that a struggle for you when that hit?
I will say that I didn't feel like 100% educated on reverse dieting. So, yeah, when the shreds started disappearing, I think it was pretty good timing when I did it, because like you said, it's getting wintertime, it's getting cold. So I competed last year this time, October 14th, I stepped on stage. So and then the weekend after was like Mizzou homecoming. So I put weight on, I think, a little bit faster than I wanted to, but I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's going to be the holidays, And then, so I gained back my weight really quickly. And that's why I told you I took a full year off, because I was like, okay, I need to figure out what works for my body. How can I get to a body composition and weight that I feel comfortable in that isn't like skin and muscle and bones, So I started figuring out like what my macros were, and I started eating the right portions of food, and that's where people will go wrong if you overindulge, because you don't weigh out like what 4 ounces of pasta looks like compared to 8. Like, that difference is a big difference. So, yeah, I struggled a little bit. I would say like there are some people out there who get super down on themselves with weight gain. For me, I kind of felt like it was okay. Like, I didn't feel super, like I wasn't unhealthy. Like, I was actually lifting more weight. And so I guess the intake of food that I was having.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Say hi, baby.
What's his name?
Teddy.
Oh, come on.
He had to make a little appearance.
Jeez, oh my God, that is so cute.
Yeah, he's 11 weeks.
Oh my God. I'm not even gonna be able to do this. We're gonna have to wrap this up now. That's too cute. I'm just kidding. So at what point in your journey did you decide to compete? How long did it take before you said, like, hey, I really enjoy doing this and I really want to see what I would look like on stage?
So in the beginning, how I mentioned like that unity experience. So once I started making friends in the gym, they opened me up to how you could take this sport to another level. So a lot of people that were older than me that I started making friends with in the gym had told me about their experiences, and they kind of got me interested in the sport. So I would say that like it became an interest to me like my mid junior year of college, I saw some people who were coming home with medals, or they would post pictures of, their successes over the weekends, and I would see them in there, like, making the progress. I wouldn't see them every day at the gym, but I would see them, let's say, like, at the beginning of one week, and then the next week, like midway, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, you look different. Like, so it was really cool to discover, and I was like, I'd love to do that myself, because as a girl, you go through all these cycles. Like, you're like, oh, I feel good in my body. Oh my gosh, I want to look better. So I was like, I feel like this is something that I could do for myself and really transform my body, like even get it to a condition that I hadn't even ever reached in gymnastics. So I was super excited to give it a try. And so, yeah, I would say I was about halfway through my junior year, and I made the goal of just getting my body ready for when I graduated, because I didn't want to miss out on like graduating festivities or things like that. I'd worked so hard throughout all of college, and I still wanted to live my time of going out. And there were even times where I was doing it for myself, that I wouldn't always drink when my friends went out. I just didn't think it was good for my body, but I would still go. But I didn't want to not have the option to do it. So there's definitely a time and place for it. And I also just wanted to be financially stable, because it adds up. It really adds up.
It really does. That's one thing I wish I would have known like 5 or 6 years ago. But when it comes to your first prep, what was that experience like? Because I love to hear first prep stories, because I mean, even if you are dieting and just getting ready just to look better, that's something in and of itself that is hard. But prep is just taking it to a whole extreme level, where I've had a lot of people, they just aren't expecting how tough it's going to be. And what was that experience like for you the first time?
The first time, I would say, I think I don't want to say I rushed into it. I guess I would have just loved to research coaching a little more, and kind of maybe talk to past competitors about how X, Y, and Z of prep was going to be, because I actually went with a coach that I was doing distance with. So, like I said, I graduated college, and then I moved back home to Chicago. So, in order to see my coach, I had to drive 4 hours. So, I didn't see her a whole lot. So, like, the posing practice wasn't done as much as I would have liked it to be. Pictures, I sent her pictures, but, seeing me in person versus a picture about what maybe needs tweaked it varies a lot. So I sort of just now know next time around, and this is what I'm doing for myself already. Like, I have a coach who's local, that I've already went and trained in his gym, twice. He has one in his garage, and he can see the work I'm putting in. He can see the differences that my body needs. And then I guess I would just say that I think it's important that every coach knows that every one of their athletes' bodies is different. I feel like sometimes I don't want to go into like super like depth with this, because that's my coach's style. But I sort of just felt like my diet was a little cookie cutter or something. I don't know. It just didn't work. I don't think my body responded well. And I feel like if I was closer to her, I would have experienced a greater transition. So I think through my first prep, it was a challenge, because I didn't give myself like the best look I could have had. Like, I feel like I needed to have pursued someone that I could have worked with day in and day out, even train with me, something like that.
I couldn't agree more on that statement. It's really just important just to be near people. So what was that experience also like when you got really, really leaned down? Because my first experience with someone like that was that there was a girl that I knew in college, and she did a competition, and she was about a week out, and she came up and she hugged me, and it was like feeling like it was like a skeleton with just muscles or whatever. I was like, what the hell? This is like, I'd never felt this. What is that feeling like for you though? Is it just sort of a weird thing to sort of look at yourself in the mirror? Because like I always say, growing up, you're so used to just seeing yourself in a certain image, like a not so muscular image, even if you when you were a kid. Was that a weird adjustment for you, sort of seeing yourself like that in an image that you probably like years ago would have never guessed that you'd look like?
It was. I will say I was always cold. My toes and hands were always cold. Like, circulation was stopping. Not to sound obsessive compulsive about being tiny, but like, I almost enjoyed it. I was like, I think I look kind of good, and like I said, I don't think I got as lean as I could have been. I'm not some like, genetics is totally runs with this whole thing, but vascularity, I didn't really see a whole ton of it. I know genetics plays a big role in that, but I guess that's what I was always looking for. I was waiting to see like these veins pop out on my shoulders, on my forearms, and that never came. So I was sort of just like, am I skinny enough? Am I lean enough to step on stage? But now that I've gotten older, I've taken some time off, I realized like that doesn't come naturally for everybody. So You
Yeah.
have to be very lean to get that, and it's definitely attainable for so many, but it comes easier to some than others just based on their genetics. But I personally think overall I felt good in my body. There were a few times like fatigue caught up to me, but I think I was getting ample sleep. I had decent nutrition, and I worked myself hard enough in the gym that, I was tired by the end of the day. As I was getting carbs cut closer to the show, there were a few nights that sleep was a little hard, and I would take, like a supplement to kind of help me with that, whether it be melatonin, core 21 by first form. There's different ways to handle those kind of things. But overall, I felt comfortable.
And we are both somewhat pale individuals, I would like to say.
Yes.
And when it comes to putting that tanner on for the first time, I always love to hear what that was like, because I've heard so many stories where people are just like, yeah, I see muscles that I never thought I had. Everything really pops out. What was that experience like for you the first time putting that tan on?
It's a shock. It is really a shock because, I have my own self tanner that I put on every week or so and get a little bit of color with. But having that tan, especially after spray number two, because you do one the night before and then another on show day, it's like, wow. Like there's parts on your body that like you never knew could even get touched with the tan that are tan. And it's a lot. And my first shower, like you're almost disgusted. Like you look at the ground and you see what's coming off of your body, and you're like, that was on my body. It's very shocking. Yes, I know I'm very pale.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean that's just my pure Norwegian basically system. I mean, that's a whole different thing
Yes,
where I just wish I had, just a little bit of a little Mediterranean or something just
I know.
to make it. But yeah, I actually had a girl that was from Italy, and she was whiter than me and you combined, and I didn't know what that was.
Really.
I was like, you really got screwed in the jackpot then with that. So, I mean, it is one of those things where for a lot of people it just changes a lot of things. And when it comes to posing, was that a very hard experience for you? Because we talk to so many people about posing, and for a lot of them, that is the hardest thing in their it's worse than
Hmm.
their workouts, it's worse than their nutrition. It's just a really
Hmm.
hard thing to master. What was your experience like with that?
Yeah, it's difficult. I would like to say I am coordinated because of the gymnastics, and you would think hitting a pose is so easy, but put heels on and
Yes.
everything changes. Everything changes. Also, be half naked. Everything
Yeah.
changes. I was in a leotard, but like your stomach and breasts and booty weren't necessarily exposed. So, the flow, it's hitting a flow that's on stage that looks in sync and that looks fluid and that looks I like 100%. It's hard to get there, so you definitely have to practice and you have to be comfortable in your own skin. And it sort of sucks because you could practice in the mirror at home, at the gym, with music, whatever, but everything changes when you're under those huge spotlights and you see judges in front of you. You may have been practicing to walk out by taking only 6 steps, but to get to the center it took 8. You're like, oh my gosh, everything's messed up now. So it's hard, but I think a lot of people underestimate how much they need to practice. They're like, oh, it's fine, I'll just do it once a
Mhm.
week. No, you need to practice every day to get down that fluid motion.
You sort
Make
of
it look
already touched base on it, but a little bit more with the heels. That's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. I mean, I had the tallest competitor ever for females on the podcast, and she was 6'3". So that's just,
wow.
and I was like, well, how tall are you in heels? And she's like, yeah, it's like 6'9" when I walked on there. So that's her own little struggle there. But for you, had you worn heels a lot, or was that just a whole different experience where that really kind of had to deal with a lot more
Yeah.
practicing?
I would say that I'm pretty good in heels. Being in college, going out once a weekend or so, I wore some. But I mean, I was just walking and maybe running occasionally if I was cold.
Yeah.
I was never like flexing muscles and such
Hmm.
in them, and changing weight to hit one certain part of your heel versus your toes. Like, it's definitely a different experience. But to to answer your question on the head, I don't think I felt uncomfortable in
Hmm.
them. It was more, I think the part I was uncomfortable with was more so just making my posing like up top look good in the bikini.
Yeah.
But the heels came kind of natural.
Do you think that your gymnastics background, I mean, it can be a team sport, but it's also a big individualistic sport.
Hmm.
Do you think that sort of helped with your determination? Because let's face it, gymnastics, some of them could be bodybuilders in and of themselves, just the way that they look for natural workouts, or they could be close to it. Was that really just a big help for you having that background in gymnastics when it came to sort of the mental preparation and the mental strength
Yeah.
that you need in order to compete?
I would say so, and I think like I mentioned earlier, it's a big part of why I
Mhm.
pursued it. I was look like I said too. I was a part of a softball team. I did
Yep.
volleyball, cross country, all that. Way more team based. But what I missed was like competing for myself. scoring X, Y, and Z points because of something that I was able to accomplish on my own. I think the mental strength that gymnastics taught me definitely helped when it was time to bring it to the stage.
Yeah, that's one of those things where gymnastics, that's just a whole different thing. I mean, they have some of the toughest workouts out there. I've had a few gymnasts on, and yeah, it's just crazy what they go through. But I always
Right.
love to ask. I have a lot of up and coming bands on this show as well. I always like to ask the up and coming bands. What is that feeling like performing live? What is that feeling like when you get on stage and you get to perform? But that also applies to competitors, I think. What is that feeling for you when you get to step on stage? Show all that hard work that you've done in prep, and just to feel that rush and that high, and all those people cheering. What is that feeling like for you personally?
I want to, I don't know. For me, it's kind of indescribable. I guess like the most rewarding thing is I was in front of 100 people and 100 judges, but I heard different people yelling things, but like I could pinpoint my little sister's voice and I could hear Adam's voice. And that was the coolest thing. Like I heard my boyfriend call my number. He's like, let's go. I think I was 167. And when I heard that, like, let's go, babe, it's like the endorphins and the chills you get. It's just like, this is why it's worth it. You don't even need a place, but seeing some people be so proud of you and recognize everything you worked for, it's a feeling I won't forget. So
It's definitely just one of those indescribable feelings. And when it comes to either music or performing or just any of that, I always recommend that one person should just experience that feeling at least once in your life. Because I have, I mean,
right.
being a pitcher, that was a huge thing too. Just being out there, basically you and the catcher and the batter, it was just a huge thing that I really, really
Yeah.
enjoyed. But when it comes down to post show, what is your favorite go-to post show meal?
Afterwards, I sort of had a variety of everything. I had a bite of pizza. I had a bite of a donut. I had pretzels with cheese. Like I don't know. I know a lot of people go for like a burger,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, I needed everything.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to dabble a little bit in everything. I will say, I think anything high carb is a go-to for me. Like you are stuck to either sweet potato or rice cakes with carbs during your prep. So for me, I was just, I think the whole bread and cheese thing is what I was craving because I went for pizza and pretzels with cheese. So I'm gonna have to say that'll probably remain the same. I'm a Chicago girl, so that deep dish pizza gets me every time.
You're getting me so hungry right now just talking about deep dish pizza. I mean, I love deep dish pizza. A lot of
Yeah,
people rip on it, but yeah, deep dish pizza, it's it's
it's
it's
so
it's it
good.
is so good.
Now I might have to get some.
Oh, absolutely. I already had Papa John's yesterday though, so I can't. But you gotta make sure you maintain that balance. But you touch base on it a lot. But one of the big things that I always really love to talk about too is a lot of people don't realize when you guys are competing, you sort of manipulated your body through all of the dieting and exercising to look a way that is not sustainable. A lot of
Sure.
people sometimes have that misconception where they're like, yeah, these people must look this ripped for like 365 days out of the year, which is, I mean,
No.
some of them may try that, but they won't succeed. It'll just do so much damage to your body. But when it came down, like you said, you put on weight pretty quickly afterwards. But when it comes down to that for your future shows, how do you think you'll kind of use mental, or what do you think mentally will sort of help prepare you for the fact that, like, hey, I am going to put on weight. I know that this look is not sustainable, and all of the hard work that I did is going to eventually put on a little bit more weight. What are
Yeah.
some ways that you think you'll be able to make it so that you aren't gonna want to, like, you aren't gonna feel so bad? Because we have so many people on here that tell us the same stories. Like, they sometimes get depressed, or they sometimes get
Yeah.
get full of anxiety. What are some ways that you think you'll try to make it so that it's a lot easier of a process?
I think I over this past year has have come to realize that food is only offers a temporary satisfaction. Um, Feels good when I'm eating the row of Oreos. Don't get me wrong. And then, but like 20 minutes later, I'm hurt. Like my stomach hurts, and it's not worth it. And I don't think I had that mental strength before. And it's not that I would I don't eat rows of Oreos like daily, but and I never did that before. But I think like I would always dabble in like, oh, like it's fine if I have this cookie now. It's fine if I eat this now. Because I'm hungry. Like I was never looking at the whole nutritional value and like what I was doing for my body, what energy I was putting into my body. And so I think this time around, I've really learned that Teddy, I've learned that moderation is key. And that is very cliche. So many people say it, but I really have, like I stick to concrete meals Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday, have a cheat meal Saturday and get back on it Sunday. And I'm okay with that. Like my body has come to understand when I reward it, and I make sure a leg day follows,
Mhm.
after that cheat meal because put that extra energy to use. So I think I've gained a lot of mental maturity in that aspect. Like I know when it's right to consume something and what I'm consuming, I have a whole lot of better understanding of.
Yeah. One of the big myths that I love to bust is that it's gotten a lot better, I'd say, over the last 5 years with Instagram, but there's still this belief among a lot of women where if they touch one weight, they're just going to Hulk out and become Dwayne The Rock Johnson overnight. They're going to somehow put on 50 pounds. I mean, how they came up with that idea, I mean, it's like,
I don't know.
sign me up if that's possible. But did you ever have that fear when you were working? I know that you probably already had a very muscular build because you were in gymnastics, but did you have that fear when you were starting out that you didn't want to just put on a huge amount of weight? And even if you didn't, when people come up to you, I bet there have probably been times where women just say like, "Oh, you look great, but I just don't want to get so huge touching weights."
Yeah.
What is your main response to that?
My main I first off want to say like I'm not sure why so many women fear it. Like I really am not. Like stepping into the gym shouldn't be like a whole battle with like, am I gonna look like my husband or am I gonna come off as like my boyfriend? Am I gonna be too manly? Like I don't know where that illusion ever came from. Like I don't know why, I really don't. But to answer your question, I've never struggled with it. Like I was just ready to go. And when women have came up to me asking me like, what do you do to not, look that way? Well, I have a few answers, and I but my main one is I don't lift heavy like every single time I go into the gym. Just because I pick up a weight doesn't mean I'm throwing around hundreds of pounds. It's more so that like I've come to understand that weightlifting actually burns more calories than stepping on a treadmill, because what you have what you've done for your body in the gym continues after you leave, because it's messed with your heart rate. It goes up and then it goes
Mm-hmm.
down and then it goes up and then it stays up, and then that fat burning state increases because it goes past the gym.
Yeah.
And so I tell them that, sometimes I do like hypertrophy workouts. Sometimes I lift super heavy. Sometimes I let Adam dictate my workouts because he can put on muscle. And sometimes I want to put on a little more muscle. If I want to do some girly stuff, I jump around, like I not just jump up and down, but
Yeah.
like I'll use a bench.
Yeah.
I'll use a bench and go over it.
Yeah.
I'll do some, I'll do variations. And how, quite frankly, I've been staying leaner these days is once or twice a week, I'll do like a circuit type or hit type workout. And so I'll do like 6 or 7 exercises without breaking, but with a moderate weight or a lower weight. Take a 2-minute break, redo the whole thing 4 to 5 times. And it keeps my heart rate elevated for 35, 40 minutes. And I'm done with my workout in that fast of a time. And I've used weights, I've used body weights, and have kept my heart rate up. So it's like the best of both worlds.
I've always told the story of one of my good friends in college is when I really started, working out and getting into shape and putting on muscle, getting bigger. She would always say, like, I really want to go with you to the gym, but I'm afraid that I'll get bulky. I'm afraid that I'm going to get too huge. This went on for a few months. And then finally one night I just snapped and I said, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse when we go out to clubs or when we go out to eat weighs more than a lot of the dumbbells in there. And you're not gaining any muscle from carrying that thing around all day. And that's finally the thing that sort of convinced her to come in. So it's just one of those things where as soon as you just get in the gym and start lifting, it really just busts it wide through, because then you can do like one curl and be like, oh my god, I'm huge now. No, that's not how it works. You have to do so many things, and people just don't realize all the hard work and dedication that people who do look like that put into it, along with some other things that they might be doing that we won't discuss here. But it's just a whole thing that they just need to be more education on it, that it's definitely not bad. And it's one of those things too that just drives me crazy, that I really think that's why I ask every guest on here about that myth, because it's one of those big ones that just really needs to get dispelled, because like you said, lifting weights is one of the best things that you can do. So it's just huge. And when it comes down to also having the gymnastics background, do you still incorporate some gymnastics training into your workouts?
I would say the burpees 100%. Yeah. But no, I really don't. But what I've actually considered for maybe like a year or two from now is there's a fitness category of bodybuilding where you could do like a performance and do some dance moves, splits, whatever floats your boat. And it's something I've considered, on top of doing like the bikini category, because you're able to enter more than one category. So that might be on my list. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if I'll commit to it yet. But that's something I've considered, and I think it would allow me to incorporate a little bit of my background with it. So
one of the big things that people who are mainly gymnasts, one of the big things, I'm surprised that, I mean, a lot of gymnasts that I've had on here do this. They get into CrossFit because it's very similar to
Yeah.
gymnastics with types of workouts. Were you ever at all thinking about maybe trying CrossFit? Because it is so similar to gymnastics moves.
I have considered it, and I would actually say like my HIIT workouts that I've
Mhm.
been doing incorporate more cross-like movements.
Mhm.
So I'm not a part of a CrossFit gym. I work out at a Gold's in my area, but I've definitely considered. I have a lot of friends who do it, and they're always like, "You need to come to one of our classes." So I think I need to take them up on it. But I will say that some of the movements I don't think I'll be used to,
Mhm.
and I'm just afraid that I'm gonna be sore. Like I am gonna not
Do
be able
not
to.
drink the Kool-Aid if they offer it to you, though. That's all I'm gonna say. that I always joke about how some people always joke about it's a cult, but I was like, no, it's not. It's just that people see like all those. I mean, men and women, they just get so ripped and shredded by doing CrossFit. Like you see the big
I
ones, like the
know.
Annie Thor's daughters, and you're like, how? Like, what is that? Like, that's just, it's
I
insane. So
know.
it's yeah, it's one of those. I think it's one of those fears where people just have, where they're just like, how do those people get that muscular looking like that? And they try to rip on them because they're like, oh, it's not the way that I did it, which is another
Right.
huge thing that people like to say. But it's just one of those things. Absolutely. So now we go to our audience favorite and my personal favorite part of the podcast, sort of getting to know you, where I'm going to ask Samantha here about a dozen or so questions, and we're going to see how she stacks up to everyone else that we've had on. So for our
Ooh.
first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
My go-to workout song. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know. I like need to look at my Spotify playlist. Um, I don't have a song. I would just say album is or like artist is probably Eminem.
Yep.
He literally always gets me going. If I am not sure what to find on, what to listen to, I just put his radio station on and I listen to that. Soldier will always be great
Yeah.
motivator. Great
Yeah.
motivator.
That's a huge one too. Eminem, Lose Yourself. That's one of my ones
Yes.
for sure. So for our second question, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
The Rock.
Yep.
And my boyfriend would kill me, but he knows I'm in love with him.
Okay. So you're going to be, I think when I publish this, you're going to be around like our 46th or 47th guest for the health and fitness category. 42, I think, have said The Rock. So I definitely got to change that because I'm like, everyone says The Rock, but we've had like me personally would be like an Arnold Schwarzenegger or someone like that just because it's Arnold. But yeah, The Rock would definitely be up there. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
If I could train one of them, Ariana Grande.
Ooh.
She's so cute.
Yeah. That is our first Ariana Grande answer. Our most popular is Kevin Hart, but I always say to that, I was like, it would be great, but I wouldn't be able to get a workout in because we'd be laughing the entire time. I mean, it would be the best ab workout of all time because I'd just be laughing the whole time, but that I wouldn't be able to lift a weight with him. It would be too funny.
I just think Ariana Grande's whole music video with the bicycles. What's that song? It's like side to side.
Yeah.
She's in her whole little workout attire. I mean, I don't know how she works out, but I would love to show her, walk her through mine, and then we'll see if she makes a song about that.
Well, I always hate sometimes, one of my big pet peeves is those celebrities who they'll post themselves like curling like 3-pound weights or whatever, and they're like getting ready for my new movie or whatever, and then you see them like 2 weeks later and they've lost like 25 pounds and they look like super great, and it's like, you're providing a false image with how to actually achieve that, because then people see that and they're like, oh, all I gotta do is go and do that. So I just wish they'd be more honest about the ways that they get into looking the way that they do for movies, because you see these celebrities make, like Jonah Hill is my biggest example. The guy gains and loses 150 pounds every year, and I first of all, what that's doing to his body, I have no idea.
I know.
Whenever we hear about a Jonah Hill movie coming out, me and my two brothers always say, well, is he going to weigh 350 pounds or is he going to weigh 150 pounds? We don't know. But yeah, it's just one of those huge things where celebrities just, I think, got to be a little more honest. But what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
One item that I always need to have in my fridge. I actually really like Cool Whip.
Ooh.
I get the sugar free. I either put it on like my mug cake. I'll add it to my protein waffle. I'll put it on a yogurt, like just a little dollop. It's always in my fridge, and it's literal to nothing calories and has pretty good macros, but it literally adds flavor to anything I feel that I end up putting it on. So
I'm just thinking because it's about the season. Cool Whip on pumpkin pie. That's my go-to. We're just, oh my God, I can't wait. Now I'm starting to think about Thanksgiving. So now
I actually, before I got on here with you, I have some pumpkin pie bars that I'm cooking in the oven right now. So
that is my greatest thing. That is my favorite. That is my favorite type of pie, hands down. I mean, I can't get enough of it. But now I got to move on because I'm just gonna start drooling on this mic here, and it's not gonna look good. Yes. So now for our next question, what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
I think a lot of people are very what's the word? Shocked when they see how short I actually am. So when they just see me, I don't know how tall would you say you think I am based off of like seeing my Instagram?
Well, you said you're in gymnastics, so that automatically puts. So you're like 5'3".
That's exactly it. So crap. I'm literally 5'3". But the few
Yes.
people that have followed me that
Yep.
I've ended up meeting, they
Mhm.
thought I was like 5'5", and then they're like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
you're a little shorter."
So yeah, that 5'3" thing. Yeah, I'm actually a whole entire foot taller than you. I'm 6'3". So when I go to the gym, I mean, it's really really different. I always had this funny story. There was a short girl at my gym, and one time all of the pull-up bars were being used. So then she's like, "I have an idea," and I was like, "What?" She's like, "Put your arm out on the wall or whatever." And then she was doing pull-ups on my arms. So I was like, "Tall people and short people can coexist peacefully in the gym and find ways to do exercises." But yeah, being 6'3", that's just a whole different struggle when it comes to weights. But being short, do you think that ever, not being short, but being on the shorter side, do you think that ever somewhat made it a little bit more difficult for you when it came to lifting weights and putting on muscle?
Actually, no. I would say it's actually different. I know that a lot of people who are taller actually struggle a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more with like coordination. And when they actually get up on stage, the shorter guys often look better. So I say guys because it applies a little bit more to guys.
Mm-hmm.
If you put like a guy who's a little shorter and stockier, it's exactly that. Like their muscles look
Mm-hmm.
stockier, they look more developed because there's less surface area that they have to cover. So those taller guys, I would say it's actually a little bit more
Yep.
strugglesome for them. I know my boyfriend dealt with that. He the guy that beat him in his competition was like 3 inches shorter, and it's just because he looked like he had more mass because
Mm-hmm.
it was so compact.
Yeah, it's a whole illusion. Like I said, I mean, it's gonna be hard to put on muscle just because it's longer. You're gonna have longer arms. It's gonna take a little bit more time. Like I had a
Mm-hmm.
guest on here who was 6 feet tall, and he sort of made the illusion where it's like building a bridge. Between building a bridge at 75 feet and building a bridge that's 100 feet. It's just gonna take a little bit more time, but you can still make the connection and make it. So that's just definitely one of
Right.
my things. Now going back to our questionnaire, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Favorite flavor of ice cream? Can it be like Halo Top? Because I'm
Yeah,
obsessed.
yeah.
Okay, the candy bar Halo Top I could eat every day.
For me, it's the chocolate chip cookie dough blizzard at DQ.
Oh my gosh,
That
that's good too.
that
That's
I mean, I
so
limit
good too.
myself to once a month to that, just because I'd be 500 pounds if I actually like
Yeah.
did my whole thing. But yeah, that's just hands
And then
down
if
my thing.
I weren't on the healthy side of ice cream, I'd say butter pecan is
That's a
my
good one too.
go-to.
That's a good one too. I gotta give props for that. But now, what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
The last TV show that I binge watched was Blue Bloods.
Ooh.
Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it. What is it about though? Or is that the cop
It's
show?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's based in like New York, and it's like a family who's involved in law enforcement. They all have these different roles, and I like shows like that because there is a storyline to it. There is like this family member does this with this, you get that, but you could just turn on an episode and watch it because every episode is different. Like it's a different crime that they're discovering. So I kind of like things like that because if I want it to be just kind of background noise, it could be background noise. But if I want to like be in on it, I'm like, this is so interesting.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it sounds great. You're never gonna believe it, but my last TV show I binge watched was New Girl, and I actually kind of enjoyed it. My brother started watching it, and I was like, yeah, you might
it's
still
on
watch.
it's on in our living room right
Oh
now.
my god, yeah, I loved it. I'm not gonna lie, Schmidt. I mean, that's one of my favorite characters. I mean, yeah, me and my brother quote that all the time, and yeah, I have a lot of friends that are teachers who are just like Jessica Day. That I just look at him and I'm like, how are you such like that character? It's not even funny. So it's
It's such a good show.
oh
We've binge watched that at least twice, and it's just kind of like The Office in our
yeah,
household at this point, where it's just on. It's like,
yeah,
oh, we can put that
yep.
on.
And now for our next question, it's very similar. What is your favorite TV show of all time?
What? I would say probably New Girl or Gossip Girl.
Ooh. Yeah, that's the first time that we've actually had that. Mainly, it's usually just Friends or The Office, which I'm gonna be basic too and say that those are my two favorite. It just depends on the day. I mean, one day
Right.
The Office is gonna be my favorite, the next day it's gonna be Friends. It's just
Yeah.
that's
I
it's,
never got super engrossed into Friends. Like my mom loves it and I
what?
like it, but I couldn't stick with it. Like it was just a little wonky.
How long were you under that rock? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's what I'm. No, I'm actually gonna admit this because I've never admitted this. This is the first time, full exclusive. I did not start watching Friends until like 2016. I had never
Yeah.
seen an episode until then. And then I finally watched it on Netflix and I was like, oh my God, this is like one of the greatest shows ever. But yeah, I will never, I mean, I've had friends talking about it, but I admit I was one of those guys who were like, screw Friends. I don't want to watch that. The show sounds stupid. But then I finally started watching it. And then, well, you know, the whole Jennifer Aniston being on it was a really big factor that
Yeah.
influenced me to come
Yep.
on it. But once I started watching, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. But now we get to the real nitty gritty. What is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy that most people would never guess?
That most people would never guess. This is a very difficult question. You should have prepped me with these questions before I get on here.
Well, then we don't get the genuine reactions.
Honestly, The Dark Knight.
Ooh. How is that guilty pleasure? That's a great movie.
It's just,
yeah.
I don't know.
Heath Ledger's performance, yeah, it's not even.
Yeah, it's just, for me, like, it's a very good movie, and I don't think a lot of people would expect me to say that I enjoy it. And, like, I probably have watched it alone one too many times.
Oh, yeah. Mine's the same story where it's a movie that, I mean, I've admitted plenty of times on here, but I'll admit again, my go-to date night movie, Princess Bride. That's my guilty pleasure movie. I mean, I've watched it so many times. Like I said, I can quote it no matter what scene it's in the movie. That's my thing. But now you sort of mentioned, when it comes to you and your boyfriend, I love to ask these questions, being the hopeless romantic that I am. How did you and your boyfriend meet?
Do you want to take a guess?
I think it's a 3-letter word. I'm gonna try to just see what it comes up. Is it a gyme?
Close. It's close. It is a 3-letter word. Direct. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so we weren't actually lifting weights. We weren't, like, oh, you're a cute girl, you're a guy with muscles. We were actually, I was with my freshman roommate because at Mizzou you get to move in a little bit early. And so we moved into the dorms, and then we went to the rec center the next day. There was like a inside area with like a whirlpool, hot tub, whatever, sauna. And then there was like an outdoor pool connected. And I eyed him down at the pool. And then we made it inside, and him and his friends went inside too, and we all sat in the hot tub, and I like went up to him, and he had a tattoo on his chest. I was like, what does your tattoo mean? And that's how I approached him. So
what does his tattoo mean?
It means strength in Chinese. So it's like right on his chest, and it has a variety of reasons why he's got it, based off the gym and the family and things like that.
Is he part Chinese?
No.
I was actually starting to like this guy, but then you told me he has the Chinese tattoo. I have a whole thing with that where it's like, if you don't speak the language, it's like, Chinese, come on. I'd put it, yeah. But no, yeah, I always like to give crap to people who do stuff like that.
I
It's
agree.
just a fun joke. Yeah, absolutely. So where'd you guys go for your first date?
Our first date, I think was at one of the restaurant. I'm sorry that I don't remember. Our first date was more so chill. It was like,
I was gonna say, thank God it wasn't the gym, because I've had that answer so many times. Like, our first date was the gym, and I was like, that's not a first date. Come on.
No, it wasn't the gym. I would say that, like, so we had my group of friends my freshman year, and his group of friends were actually friends, and it wasn't because of us. They had like known each other through like meeting each other on campus. And so one of the first times we hung out, he had actually just invited us over to hang out with him and my roommate and I, to hang out with his buddies. But I would say like our first official date, we went out to dinner. But I will tell you something really funny about our relationship, and he's going to kill me that I said this, is that I asked him to be my boyfriend.
All right, that deserves a story. I've told this story once before, but I'm going to tell it again. My parents' first date story is just how I was conceived after that is a miracle. So my parents met. They went to an amusement park that is about a mile away from where we live right now. They met each other through mutual friends. And first of all, my dad forgot money for the date, so my mom had to pay for everything at the amusement park. And my dad threw up on one of the roller coasters. Not on her, I should say, but he threw up still. And for some reason, I don't know, I still think whatever power is out there, every day that this happened, she decided to go on a second date with him. And we always give my mom crap about that. We're like, how desperate were you that you went on a second date with that guy? But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, thank God that happened. But I look at that and I'm like, anytime, if I ever had a bad first date, I always look at that and be like, hey, at least it wasn't like my mom and dad's first date. Nothing really ever tops that. So yeah. So now we have a few final questions on the questionnaire that I sort of like to ask everyone. So for the first one is, if someone were to walk up to you on the street and say, obviously you look great, I sort of want to adapt a more healthy and fit lifestyle myself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give that person?
I would say that getting yourself a routine is going to be the most important thing, and that's going to be based around your family, based around your life, like as in work life. It's going to be what you do in the kitchen, and it's going to be if you make time for yourself at least 4 times a week in the gym. Because honestly, like I said before, moderation is everything. If you have time for family, that's great. If you have time for yourself, like putting work in the gym, cooking yourself healthy meals, that's great. But you need a little bit of everything. You can't go 100% in the gym and then totally neglect your family. You can't go 100% with your family but neglect yourself, because when you start doing that, nothing seems to map out right. So whenever I talk to, my family members, especially aunts, uncles, all these kinds of people that are connected to me but older, it's a great example because they always come to me. They're like, how do you make time for it? And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm starting young. I started young. I have a full-time job, and I make sure that every day I get off of work, I still get myself in the gym, but I also still leave time to hang out with my significant other and my dog and get myself a healthy dinner. If I can do it, you can do it too. So it's just a matter of putting out excuses or not.
It's absolutely, and time is a huge thing that we hear as our biggest complaint from people who train people. And I always say the same thing. We've had nurses on here that work 12, 14-hour shifts every day, and they're still able to get a workout in. It's all about just maintaining that priority, and just if it's a priority, you're going to get it done. It's just one of the big things that I always like to say. And lastly, for our last question of the questionnaire, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
I think it would be to not be so hard on yourself. And I say that not even in the world of bodybuilding, but I think it's everything else too. In relationships, like with friends, in school, I think that a lot of the times I was doing wonderful. I was doing just fine, but I had a mindset that I needed to be better. And I think that mindset has led me to where I am today, in the sense that I am ambitious and I am driven, but I was too hard on myself sometimes. And I think that it sometimes took a negative turn on my mental health and everything. So,
yep, mine too. Mine would be something similar. I'd be like, you can't please everyone, because I was a huge people pleaser back then. It's just, you got to realize that not everyone's going to like you. So yeah, that's definitely a huge thing. And I got to ask finally, if you didn't have this lifestyle and you didn't do bodybuilding, where do you think your life would be at right now?
I definitely think it would be different. I think Adam and I have bonded a lot over our common interests. We have supported each other through it. I would like to say that we would still be together, but I think it was a leading factor that helped us stay together during our time of distance. We were both prepping. We both could relate to each other. It's what kept us talking every day. It's like, how are you feeling today, babe? Like, what's going on? I'm just curious, like, if we didn't have that strength, would we have made it through the distance? And it's a little ironic, the whole strength aspect, because we were getting stronger, but I don't know that I would necessarily be living where I am then today, or if I'd have my puppy. And I very well could still be located in Chicago. I now have moved to the area that, like, my boyfriend grew up in, and that's because where this fertility institute job was. But I very well might still be living in Chicago, and I could be under my parents' roof, but I have become independent, and it feels good.
Lucky. But anyway, could you briefly sort of go over what you have for your job? Because you have a very interesting job. What exactly do you do?
Yeah. So I thought I wanted to do physical therapy, and then I routed myself to nursing, got accepted, but I was like, you know what, Sam? Breaks need to go on. You need to figure out what exactly it is that you want to do. I'm going lower because this chair's hurting me. What exactly is it that you want to do? And so I put myself in a position in healthcare that I could kind of observe different roles and positions. And so the role I have now is a patient coordinator at a fertility institute. So up at the front, I get to compile medical records, work with insurance companies, work with the patients day in and day out about their care and their treatment. I collect money. I do different billing things with deposits and stuff like that. And then I overall just get to help facilitate the flow of these women who are coming in for fertility treatment. I work closely with doctors, nurses, ultrasonographers, phlebotomists. I really, not bragging, I'm the leading person in, like, what makes our system work, because it's like from the minute that they check in with me, I bring them here, and then they go here, and then they check it back in with me. It's this whole process, but it helps women who are struggling with becoming a mother become pregnant, or even same sex couples have a kid. Children seem to, and I know, help couples grow bonds. So I just kind of get to play a role in that. So I don't know if I will stay with it forever, but it's definitely been an eye-opening experience.
That's awesome. And I love to ask people that are sort of in that health industry when it comes to being a nurse or working with anything that helps with people. How does that also affect you, knowing that there are people out there who sometimes haven't been dealt a really good hand in life, like you were saying? And when you look at yourself and say like, "Hey, I'm healthy, I have a great lifestyle," how much more does that really motivate you when it comes to working out, knowing that you are blessed when it comes to a lot of things?
I think that it definitely adds fuel to my fire because of the fact that you could get down on yourself really easily some days, but you have to remember that your best day is or I'm sorry, your worst day is someone's greatest day. And I don't know, that speaks volumes to me. And seeing some of the couples, that come into our care center, I question, like, why are you having a child? And to me, it's just, I think I was provided with a really great family base. And I know that some people aren't as fortunate as me. And when I know that, like, even like I said earlier, my sister was in the crowd and I heard her cheering for me. Some people don't have that. And I think it definitely keeps me going.
Absolutely. So again, you guys, Samantha Miller, we cannot thank you enough for coming on. Are there any companies or any brands that you represent that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, I work for, or I help people attain their fitness goals, but with the education that I have learned through First Form. I'm a First Form Legionnaire, and then I also represent Dead Fit Apparel, which is a fitness company. So I'd like to thank them for everything that they let me to continue be a part of and how they continue to influence me. And then other than that, I just want to represent me. And if you guys have any workout or fitness questions, I am always here, and I would love to help you reach your goals while I continue to reach mine.
Absolutely. I'll leave the links to all that stuff down below. Is there a code that people could use maybe that gives them a discount?
Yes, if you go to First Form or Dead Fit, you could use my name, which is Sam Bam, on the website. You could use it's like firstform.com/SamBam, or if you just use the code SamBam, where it asks to enter a promo code on Dead Fit Apparel, you'll be able to save.
I'll leave that link down below. Absolutely. And again, we cannot appreciate you more for coming on the podcast. It was really, really great. We really, really learned a lot. And like I said, everyone, go and give her a follow. I'll leave all the links down below. And again, Sam, we cannot thank you enough. And lastly, I think before we wrap things up, could we see one last bit of Teddy before we wrap things up? The audience, I think, deserves that.
Yeah, let me go get it. Teddy, you get up here in the final appearance. All right, Teddy Bear.
I was trying to figure out what episode of New Girl you were watching because I could hear it a little bit in the background, but oh my god, okay, that's not even, okay. All right, everyone enjoy Teddy because, I mean, oh god, that's not even fair. But again, you guys, Sam, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.